Hey guys, Akash this side. Welcome back to my channel. I actually have a question. Have you ever wondered how your house stays safe in gated society? Well, that's exactly how the EC2 instances also stays protected in AWS as well. You're wondering how? Let me explain. Alright, so to understand security groups, I'm going to take an example of the cloud residency. So there is a society called as cloud residency and it has four different wings, which is A wing, B wing, C wing and D wing. Also, there is a main gate and at the gate we have the security guard who is really strict. This security guards needs a rule book and in that rule book we need to provide the source and the type of the service which we are going to allow. That means the only people who are allowed to visit at our flat. Now let's talk about the rule book which we have just mentioned. This rule book has a source and a type of the service. The service can be a food service, can be a maid service, can be a laundry service, and the source would be the authorized people who are allowed to visit your place. Let's take an example of the food service wherein you have only allowed Swiggy to deliver the food at your place. Now, let's say after a couple of days after living at this society, what you did is you have ordered accidentally from, let's say, Zomato. So, this Zomato person walks at your gate and he asks the security guard to allow him an entry to visit this particular flat. You are living in this particular flat. But the security guard first checks the rule book. This rule book does not have the entry for Zomato. It only has the entry for Swiggy. That means this person would not be having or would not be allowed inside the premises. Obviously, once you realize that your rule book only has the entry for Swiggy, that means the source basically would allow only for the Swiggy delivery guy and not the Zomato. So what you would do, you would update this rule book, you would make an entry for the source that anyone who is going to deliver food at my place is allowed to visit my place, and this rule book is now given to the security guard. Once that rule book is updated, then only the security guard will allow this Zomato person to visit your place. This is exactly how the security groups also work in AWS as well. Let's try to compare the real life terminologies to the security groups in AWS. Now, here the flat which I was talking about, let's consider this flat as the EC2 instances which is running inside your AWS. This security guard which I was referring to, let's consider this as a security group. And these rule books are the rules which we would be putting inside the security groups. So this is how it works in AWS. Like by each rule in security group would be having the source as well as the type of the service. Now, what we took an example for the real life scenario was the type of service was the food. So you can consider this type of service as the actual service running on a specific port number. So you can have one service running on port number 18, one service running on, let's say, 10,000 and so on. So these are the type of the service which anyone from the outside world or outside AWS would want to access. So you have to make or give the entry in the security group in order to allow the other people to access these particular port numbers. By default, in security group, everything is denied. So in order to have the access for the outside world, you have to make the entry first in the security group, and then only that particular source would be able to access the service on a particular port number. Talking about our example wherein we talked about only the Swiggy was allowed but not the Zomato at the beginning. Now, this kind of a scenarios may happen or may occur in the AWS as well, wherein we want a particular IP to access our resources or access our service on the specific port number. Let's say there is one service running on port number 80 and you want a specific IP address to access this particular port number, then what you would do is inside the rules which we are going to define in the security group, you would allow that IP address only and nothing else, so that only that source is allowed to access this particular port number. If you want everyone in the world to access a particular port number, then we can give 0.0.0.0/0, which is anyone in the world or from anywhere in the world. If the request comes in, then this particular port number is open for them. They can easily access this particular port number. So this is how the security group works in AWS. Now let's go to the AWS console and implement it in real life. All right, so here I am at my AWS console. I'll quickly go to EC2 instance and create a new instance. So I'll give the name as, let's say, security group demo. I'm going to select the operating system as Ubuntu. Then I'll be selecting my key pair here for if I need to do the SSH from my local machine. And I'm going to create a new security group. Here you see only allow SSH traffic is selected. That means only port number 22 is going to be there when we create this security group. For the storage, I would give 10 GB. That should be more than enough, and the number of instances would be 1. I'll quickly launch this instance. Okay, so the instance is created now. I'll show you the instance which I have just created. You see one is terminated in this terminated state and one is in the running state. I'll quickly try to connect to this instance and we will install Nginx on that. As we saw in the previous video, to install Nginx, I'll use sudo apt get install Nginx. This will install Nginx on this particular EC2 instance. Okay, so the Nginx is now installed. Let's go back to the instance and go to the security, and we will click on the security groups. I'm going to show you one interesting thing. By default, everything is denied. So if you see the inbound rule, the inbound rules are basically the traffic which is going to come inside the EC2 service. By default, only port number 22, because we had selected that earlier. Now let's first try to access the newly installed Nginx from the outside. So what I'll do is quickly go to instances and I'll get the IP address of it, and I'll go to http:// the IP address of it, and now you see it is in the loading mode. So it is actually trying to reach to that particular port number. Nginx usually runs on the port number 80. So it is trying to go to that port number, but because we do not have any entry inside this security group, this would not be accessible from the outside world. Now let's try to make an entry. I'll go to edit inbound rule under the security group, and here I'll quickly add the new rule. So for this, I'll add the HTTP, which is basically port number 80, and for the source, I'll give 0.0.0.0/0, which is anywhere in the world, and I'll quickly click on save. Once we do that, you would see Nginx would be accessible from outside as well. So see, even if I try to access this from the incognito tab as well, you will be able to see the similar output. Welcome to Nginx. That means we are now able to access the service which is running on the port number 80. Sometimes the requirement may come like you want to specify only specific IP addresses and give the access to those IP addresses only. So for that, we have to come to the security groups and edit a specific inbound rule. So the service which we are going to work with is port number 80, and we want to specify a specific IP address. So let's say I want to edit the rule for port number 80. I have checked this. I'll go to edit inbound rule. And for this, I can add instead what I want to do is for port number 80, I want to mention, let's say 124.24.24.2/32. So this is the range of IP addresses I want to give access for, and I can quickly save the rules. And if I go back to my NGINX and try to access this, you would see it is keep on loading and loading and loading. That means my particular IP address does not have access to port number 80 of this EC2 instance. So this is how the security group usually works in AWS. And if you have any questions, any queries, any suggestions, do comment below and like the video if you are enjoying the content which I am creating, and subscribe to my channel. Thank you. I'll see you in the next one.